Hail, you Warhammer players, and welcome to the yard. Today with me is, of course, my co-host Joey, and we have two wonderful humans with us to help with today's topic. First, we have my good buddy and teammate, Drew. He's here to talk about his paint. Drew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Drew.
Excellent.
Maybe
Yep, nailed it.
Drew is our local paint god. You might have heard us talk about him before. And then also with us is one of the better up-and-coming painters, we'll say, Natalie Hill. You might have met her once or twice at some of your locals. Tell us, Natalie, tell us about you a little bit.
I've been playing for about 5 years. I'm on a team called Lightly Salted, and I started chasing hobby about 2-3 years ago. So I'm very new to trying for the hobby side, for trying to join people like Drew up on that pedestal of paragon of painting.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I we all think you're a little bit closer than you might think you are, but I think that's just a normal, natural thing that humans do. And do you do any socials, Nat?
Any socials?
Yeah. Do you put your work up on the internet anywhere?
Sometimes I'll post it up on Instagram, but I'm very self-conscious of my work. I'm surrounded by my hobby idols. I've got Drew, I've got Eric Mullen, I have Kevin Gubbs, so I'm very self-conscious of posting it. I will post it on occasion, but not as much as I probably could.
Okay.
Mostly just on Instagram.
And what's your handle? Where can people find you?
It's villainousnat1.
Ooh.
On
That's
Instagram.
A fun one.
Yeah.
Quite fun.
Excellent. And Drew, you don't do any socials, do you?
I'm on there, but I don't. I'm similar to her. I don't.
Internet.
I'm
You know,
pretty
it
self-conscious
happens.
of my stuff.
We'll do our best.
That, or I just don't want to tip my hand for any of my competition. How's that sound?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Maybe. Okay.
Very good. So otherwise, you can find me on TikTok at allday40k. And Joey, where can they find you?
You can find me over on Instagram as well, and that's just Beddingfield Painting. It's just me.
Just you. Excellent. We're talking to experienced hobbyists. We'll answer the questions ourselves and go through as round robin as best we can to talk with each other about the celebration of one of the most fun aspects of playing this game at all, which is making your stuff pretty. So to get us started, let's talk about the factor in deciding that you would become a better painter. Like, what was it about it? I'll go ahead and start us off, which the reason I wanted to become a better painter is because I oftentimes played with people who put gray armies on the table, and I hated it. And I figured if I can come in new to this game and show off how easy it is to like paint and like be halfway decent at it, that maybe my friends with gray armies would paint their armies too. It did not work, but it was the drug that pulled me into it overall. So that was mine.
Yep.
What was your trigger to like become a better painter?
When I learned to play, the people who taught me to play and helped me acquire my first armies were already very well known for beautiful armies. My first sisters were the original metal models, and I got those from Lou Rollins, who has won many, many awards for his beautiful paint. So not having a beautiful army wasn't something I didn't understand. Slapchop, they always spoke of it, and gray armies, and Slapchop was always, we don't, this is shame. We don't speak of this as not this. We expect better standards from you. So it was always something I took seriously, but the drive to actually try to compete at the same level that Drew's been at and everyone else was at the SoCal Open a couple of years ago, when I actually got to experience, oh, wow, there are other people out here. It's not just the one or two names in my local community. And I got to sit down with Jacob Thayer from the Hobby Goblins, and he gave me some really good feedback. And then on the 10-hour drive home from Cali to Utah with my captain, we just spitfire ideas of what I could do and incorporate his feedback into the current army, which were my little pink war dogs, little Shalaxi war dogs. It did really well. We took a very simple idea, and that army went on to make Showcase at LVO.
Excellent.
So that was when the competitive hobby bug bit me.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good for you. It's really nice to have like those like super positive influences that are like good at painting to help pull you in. That's rad.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Joey? What was the bug? What gave you the bite?
Painting is what I started the hobby in to begin with. I grew up around art and drawing and painting on canvas, and when I was like early high school, I started doing like model cars and things like that. So like I was kind of already just in that world a little bit. And then at my first duty station when I was in the Air Force, one of my friends introduced me to 40K, and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. Got into the lore, got into the models, started painting, and then from there it was like, well, I should probably do something with these. And so then I learned how to play the game after. So
Excellent. I mean, hey, when you're surrounded by it your whole life, it just makes sense to kind of naturally fall into it. Drew,
yeah, I have
Jack, it
not
looks like you're on
broken.
your phone now.
Hey.
I gave up.
But that works though.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
You're great now.
We can hear you and we can see you, so that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't broken into the like competitive side of painting yet. I like am very aware that I'm not a horrible painter. It's just like in the past, most of my painting effort has gone into commissions and not my own stuff. And so like my armies historically have just been like battle ready. And then the things that I actually care about are not the models that I'm playing with. They're my friends that paid me. So it's whatever. But so we'll see one day.
Yes. So the quick clarification for everybody on this call. Joey and I are not competitive painters. We are very good battle-ready painters. But here with us are two very competitive painters. Of course, Drew, tell us what bit you. What was the hobby bug that bit you? How did you get into it?
Oh boy. I've thought about this question for, a couple days now. And in the way back machine, every year for Christmas, my brother and I, we would get a model airplane, 1/48 scale, so they were all the same size, and then we would build them and assemble them, and then we'd stick them on our ceiling, and then we'd have these mock dog fights up there, and flying around, and we were mostly World War II stuff, but we had some pretty modern stuff in there too, and yada yada yada. But the thing is I didn't get to play with them other than when it was time to come take them down and knock the 1/4 inch of dust off the top of them. So they would do one lap around the house, making pew pew noises, and then they would go back up on the roof or on the ceiling. So in high school, I had a similar thing. I had a couple buddies that made the armies and introduced me to the game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. So I can have models and I can play with them. Sign me up. So then through the course of my time in the Air Force, was mostly hobby because it was something I could, pick up and move and then always have when I got to a new spot. And it wasn't really until we settled down here in Spokane that I started getting into like actual like competitive kind of stuff. And it started out small, just like everybody else. But I would say the answer to this question is I get to paint my models and play with them too. So.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. And also, your dad is a hobbyist at heart, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And so I'm sure that familial influence probably helped quite a bit. Excellent. So that takes us into really the next question, which is, what was the first model you told yourself, this is going to be my first step? Like you picked up a model and said, this is the one where I'm going to actually try to be good at painting. For me, it was Tor Garradon, because I started with Grey Knights, and then I picked up a box of Imperial Fists from their like release box in 9th edition. There was just one still on a shelf because nobody plays that army. And I thought, man, these are yellow and cool. And I put that character down, and I spent like 6 hours painting him. And for me, 6 hours at that time was an incredible amount of time painting. I know that's a very small for many. And he's okay. I'll go ahead and put a picture up for you guys to take a look at here. But he is like the first iteration of my paint jobs overall. And you know, I've come a long way since then, of course. But yeah, that was mine. I really just kind of sat down and said, I like this army. I think it's cool. It's bright and it's pretty, and I'm going to make it prettier. But that was mine. Drew.
And how long
Oh,
how long did that take? Like how long had you already been playing before you said, okay, other than just showing people that putting fully painted models on the table is not difficult, how long did it take for you to go, oh, I'm actually going to try at this?
I was about 6 months into the hobby.
Okay.
All the models that I had put on, I painted to completion, but I didn't really care about basing or anything of the sort. I was just like, you know what, throw some sand and glue down. I'm battle ready. I'm good. All my Grey Knights, they were so boring. It's like silver armor, red weapons, and gold highlights. Like, cool.
There we go.
But it wasn't until I really got into my Imperial Fists and Space Marine army in general that I was like, I like this. This is fun to me. So thanks for that question. Drew, same question for you, buddy. What was the first model that you know, like the Warhammer 40K model, I guess, or even a plane, where you said, I'm really going to put my all into this model?
This goes back into the Wayback Machine. One of the first models I ever actually bought in a blister pack from Games Workshop was the original Noise Marine. Guy with the cool mohawk, guitar, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, he was just so cool. And then I painted him. I was trying to remember, and I'm talking to you guys. I've spent the better part of the last 2 days trying to find him. But he's been repainted 2 or 3 times while I was in high school, and then he's been static since. But he was the first one where, you know, all the other stuff was just kind of like colored by numbers, just big bloppy kind of stuff like this. And this guy, you know, he had leopard print and zebra stripes, and, you know, his mohawk was 3 colors, and it was as cool as I've ever painted anything at that point in my life. And I was just like, dang, I could do this for all these, and this would look really cool. Of course, it's taken a while to get to the point where I could do all these and make them look really cool, but still, that was like the trigger for me, is like, these models are special. So
hell yeah, absolutely agreed. And I like Joey's question a lot as a follow up to that. How long had you been playing 40K and being introduced at least to it before you really kind of sat down with that Noise Marine?
I don't even know if I was really playing at that point, because I was on a pizza maker's budget and in high school, and so I had, you know, getting $3 and something an hour, and I had to put half of that in my gas tank and the other half in the savings account, theoretically, and then so yeah, I didn't actually have a full army for a long time, but yeah, so I don't know, that the transition from this is cool, I'm gonna start collecting, to this guy could be the baseline for the rest of my army, was probably, I don't know, a year or 2 in high school.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nat, same question.
My first model where I probably thought I'm really going to try was my first set of Metal Sisters that I bought off of Lou Rollins. He had bought the army for his wife. She didn't play, so I bought them from him, and I kind of got into it pretty fast. I went to a gaming retreat with someone I was dating at the time, and this is, you're going to learn how to play Warhammer. Okay. I spent 3 days learning to play Warhammer. The day we were done with the gaming retreat, they said, hey, there's an RTT. You should come play. So I went and played in an RTT. That was my introduction, and then a week later, I bought my first Sisters Army. So I had been playing for about 2 weeks when I thought, I'm going to really give it my all. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know what paint I was supposed to buy. And that was it.
Nice.
And it was a really sad sister battle that I still own. It's still in a case somewhere up at my parents' house in storage.
That's great.
If you can find pictures of those, I would love to put them up on the
I think I
on the
sent
screen
you the
here.
picture of that first sister.
Did you?
I
Okay,
I
I'll
found one.
double
I
check.
could go. I'll send them back to you. But yeah, I took a picture because I was so proud of how she had turned out. Because at the time, I thought I had done a really good job. I hadn't seen what could be done. So I was pretty
Oh,
proud of myself.
there she is. I see her. For 2 weeks in, she looks great.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Hey, and that took me about 15 hours. I got down to when I was painting my sisters, they took me about 15 hours each.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's when you know they care.
I care. I care.
It's a lot of care.
A lot of
Yeah.
care.
Joey.
Yeah. So I was like, as everybody has been answering the question, I went back and doom scrolled really quick to the bottom of my Instagram because when I first started, I was actually like a good little internet poster and posted basically every day. So there's a lot of log of things that really shouldn't be on the internet, but they are. And like looking at like the various things that I painted, that I was like, there was a couple of times where I would paint something and I knew, and the intention was to paint it well, but looking at it, like I think the one that really pushed it, the first one that did it was, there's a little weird boy that I painted, the old fine cast weird boy with the grot on the chain that's hanging off his side for absolutely no reason and doesn't really make sense for the model, but he's there. That one was a big step for me because that was, I think, when I like really started to try highlighting outside of like dry brushing. I'd done tons of that already, but that's not what I was looking for, because I had a war boss that I thought was pretty good, and I went to an event down in Texas, War Games Con. It's in Austin. I went there. This was 2015 or 16. I think it was 15. And there was a guy holding a painting class. I really wish I remembered his name. I really do, because it was fantastic, but I don't remember his name. But it was this old guy, fantastic painter. And I showed him pictures and was like, hey, what do you think about this? Just kind of talking. And he said it was good, but like, hey, you need to highlight. Like, that's a thing that you need to do. You need to practice. You should just push this further. And I was like, yeah, I highlighted a little bit, and like zoomed in on my phone and showed him. And he was like, it's the best advice I've ever gotten. When you are highlighting, especially things like pants and clothes and skin, to do it until you are uncomfortable with it. It's highlight until you think you went too far, and that's probably right. And so I took that and like actually did it, or tried to do it with this weird boy. And I think that was the first time that I was like, this is advice that I have heard and I'm going to try and do it.
Excellent. That segues really nicely overall into the question of taking on a more advanced technique. The very first advanced technique, of course, that anyone tried to bring on. So Nat, what was the first advanced technique that you tried when it came, like realizing this is more than just putting paint on a thing?
Dry brushing. Learning how to dry brush was, for me at the time, really advanced.
Yeah.
I remember trying a lot, and my hands were always covered in paint.
Was there any particular teachers or influences that you drew off of?
Nope. It was just good advice from other painters of, oh, you should try applying some dry brushing. I'd heard about it. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on it, and a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error of how to get it done right.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think is the biggest hurdle when it comes to picking up dry brushing?
Knowing not to use a dry brush, that it does need to be a little bit moist or it looks chalky. That is
the term dry brush is a lie.
Is a lie. And I have a very good friend who didn't understand that and has been trying to get into hobby and came back. He's like, why is my stuff chalky? I'm like, because your brush was actually dry and it's not supposed to be dry. So yeah.
Okay. What about you, Drew? As far as your very first, like, more advanced technique, what did you pick up?
I went for weathering. I've always been a big fan of uh, like battle worn kind of stuff, and so when I decided to when I landed here, I was still with my Dark Angels, and I decided to take it to the next level. That's where I started. I started with the chipping medium. So I do everything on hard mode. So you do the base layer for all the rust colors, and then you clear coat it. Then you hit it with the chipping medium, and then you paint over the top of that, and then you hit it with a wet toothbrush, and you kind of target your scraping and your chip marks. And that is something that's really easy to go off the deep end and do way too much, or not do enough, or not take care of it while you're doing it, because even a warm thumb can reactivate that stuff, and then you'll have a thumbprint come off while you're painting. You thought you were almost done. So so it's
You do
yeah
do
that was
hard mode.
yeah. And then you'll see pictures here, but my hard mode included splitting all my stuff in half. So I did Angels of Redemption, so that's the half green, half tan, and so why do it once when you can do it twice?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Especially on
You
models that don't have hard middle lines.
Yeah, dude. You know what? You are excellent at making things harder than they need to be. Um, but it shows. It really does. As for me, my first quote unquote advanced technique was I was so afraid of like getting into the edge highlighting of anything that I'm like, I'm just gonna really work on making sure that there is a light source on every model. And so it was, I guess, airbrushing or zenithal highlighting was my first like quote unquote advanced technique, making sure that you had light coming in from a certain angle and that there was a difference in color from like a high, a mid, and a low. That way I can get away with having models on the table that looked okay, that hadn't a single highlight. And it was great. It was great for a while until somebody looked at it and said, you need to put some edge highlights on there. And I felt deep shame.
To be fair, you said there was not any highlights. There are. They're just not any edge highlights.
Yeah. Edge highlighting was like this big hurdle that I just did not want to get near. So
That's fair.
and
That's
it's
fair.
funny
was
that
that.
it's not the fashion of paint right now to have edge highlighting.
I think I love it. I think edge highlighting is awesome now. Like now that I've been painting, and if I don't see any edge highlighting, I get sad when I look at the model. But or at least some amount of highlighting, but I like it. Not to say that it's the end all be all technique, but I just think it belongs in certain places.
That's fair.
Okay, great. And then I think let's move into what is the biggest hangup for getting started with any and all hobby. Let's go ahead and Joey, kick us off. What do you think is the biggest hangup for getting started?
To get started on this is so rough because I think my hangup is different depending on what I'm doing. My biggest hangup for starting new armies is that I hate building models. I cannot stand it. So that's like that's step one. And then getting started on a painting project, generally the biggest hurdle is that I will have an idea in my head. I will know what I want to do, and then I will just talk myself out of it because I am not good enough, and thus it will not look good, and I shouldn't do it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that those are two things that certainly get in the way. The biggest one being like if you don't want to do a thing, you don't want to do a thing, and if you don't enjoy that portion of the hobby, which is the building portion, then it makes it tough to get going. So, Drew, what about you? In terms of getting started, what do you think the biggest hangup is?
I can echo Joey here. When I have an idea in my head, I get into it happens in the game too. The analysis paralysis. It's like, okay, so I want to have this look so good that it's going to be great, and then I want to have the equation that I'm building simple enough that I can repeat it, but it can't be so simple, and it's got to be good enough. And then so I go back and forth on how I want to juggle this, and then that's how I end up with all these little cue cards up here of paint recipes. And and so then I'm like, okay, cool. And then like now with my Eldar, I'm going for mostly yellow, but I want to do Power Ranger stuff. So all the individual special units are going to be their own color. So I have to recreate or reinvent or do that process for each individual squad, and it's going to be like that's part of the reason I have 3 half done models for the army so far.
It's fair.
That'll certainly do it. Also, ratcheting it up the difficulty as you bust into your newest army. Mad respect for that. Nat, what do you think is the biggest hang up for getting started painting?
I'm with Joey. I hate building. For my birthday, my team tends to go, hey, as your birthday present, I will build a model for you. They're very nice. I hate building. But my husband can't build for me. He's offered. And the looks I give him are like he's hurting my beloved child. He can just see the torment in my face while he's handling my models. So as much as I hate doing it, it's just less painful if I just do it myself. Unlike you guys, I don't come up with an idea in my head. I'm too analytical. I don't have the creative bone in my body. And sisters, my sister's army, I decided just to stick with the traditional black armor and hey, I don't have to think about it. I can just do this. Knights don't have recognizable, oh, I'm running in Chaos Knights. They have to look this way. They don't have those colors. So I get analysis paralysis on colors and themes. I spent 3 months looking online for what colors I wanted to use for my Nurgle Knights. I woke up with nightmares about them. So it takes me a very long time to come up with that.
Wow. Okay.
Plug really quick. I will. It's called the Cube.
Yeah.
I think you can get them on Amazon. They're for home decorating. It's like for interior design and shit. So it's like 5 or 6 different colors for a color scheme, and then it'll show like a room or like a forest or whatever if it's autumn colors or what the case may be. But it's to give you a like idea of these are the 5 colors or however many that thing has. They all go together and or complement or contrast in the ways that they need to, and then you just put those colors on the model the way that you need to. There's like 400 of them, and they're all numbered. So like at worst, you can literally just random number generate, which we've done. Like a couple of the guys on my team every now and then will do that of like, hey, I'm just going to paint this random model. Somebody give me a number, and he'll pull a card and go, all right, this is your color scheme, and we'll just do it.
My Pinterest is full of that.
Yeah, it's great.
I'll say, I'm like, ooh, I like that color. And then I will go I will usually pick wedding receptions with that color,
Sure.
and then it'll show me palettes. And my Pinterest has a lot of Warhammer boards of, my demons, we're going to use plum and emerald green and tans and mustard yellows. It's full of those palettes.
Yeah.
The cube that Joey's referencing is the Color Cube by Sarah Renee Clark.
Look this up.
I believe Ninjon did a whole thing on it.
He did do a whole video on it, but yeah, it's really cool. I haven't bought one because one of my teammates bought one, so whenever I want it, I just give a number and he shows me a picture of the card. So
yeah, there's also there's umpteen free resources
out
there that have done a very similar thing just on the internet. So either support a creator or don't support a creator. I find, and this ties back to like the why I decided to get a little bit more into painting, is when it comes to the biggest hang up that people have getting started with painting is that they just don't start painting. So I used to do tech support with people, and what I would always tell people is you can't be afraid to push buttons. And I'm going to offer you the same advice. Anybody looking to really kind of pick up learning how to paint, which is just can't be afraid to put paint on the model. You can always take the paint off, guys. Unless you're using Krylon out of a can, you can always take the paint off. Or in some cases, Army Painter's primer. That stuff is cement. But yeah, just put paint on model. Keep putting paint on model. When you think you're done, maybe put a little more paint on model. Pick it up, come back to it later, and put paint on model again. Just paint it's the biggest hang up, because a lot of people do spend so much time in analysis paralysis, overthinking it little bit by little bit. And I think that is what, I mean, it all comes down to just like, you just want pretty stuff. Everybody does, but everything starts ugly, and that's okay. Great. And so that's going to go ahead and take us into the next step, which is truly the next step of painting, which is, what was that first model where you kind of thought and said, oh, I think I got this. I think that my efforts are solid, that I am not a bad painter, that I can just really only go up from here, that I've gotten over that hurdle. And for me, it's my Inceptors. I had those 3D printed smokestacks that come out of their backpacks. I took it to Tacoma, and I got compliments all day. People are like, these look amazing. Like the smokestacks, because I looked at a picture of like a rocket taking off into the sky, and there's like purple that leads to gray, that or in red, and leads to black, and then it's highlighted with white. And I'm like, I did that to the smokestacks, and they look pretty cool. Did I cut off the mold lines? No, but it's fine. But yeah, and that was those models specifically. I was like, oh, I can do this. I look at those that I painted then to the ones I paint now, and they're trash. But like, it was a step, and for me, that was mine. Joey, what was yours?
Man, I think that's because specifically the quote that you put there is, "Oh, I'm pretty good at this," which is not the way that I talk. So mine was, "Oh, I'm actually not bad at this," because that's fun. Go to therapy anyway. So mine was Conrad Kurz, for the actual Horus Heresy Primarch model, and similar to Drew, because I think at this point it's probably just the Air Force way. Really good at making things hard for no reason. So I decided to try basically everything at the same time, which was like thinning my paints to the absolute maximum, and edge highlighting, and I don't even remember what it's called, but the like slight glow to do for like lightning through an airbrush to make the backdrop, like everything, all of that I decided to do on this guy. And then like really realistic, like actually realistic stone color. And then when it was done, that was like huge. Looking at it was like, this is actually good. This is actually something I'm okay at. And I remember like the little steps of it, of like keeping track of it, because his cape is like just flaps of skin that have been like literally nailed on top of each other. And it was like 20 something layers of paint, because I literally started with green to work up into the skin color, because it's dead. And like, there's so much to it. It was great. That was the one, like once that happened, I was like, okay, this is actually doable.
Excellent. Now,
I would say it was my Guo for the most recent War Dogs. He was my centerpiece.
Very handsome boy.
He's very handsome. I like him. But I'm kind of more like Joey. I don't go, wow, I'm a great painter. I was very proud of him. Like, I am very, very happy with the way he looks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big confidence booster, and oh, I'm not half bad at this. But yeah.
Nice. You guys should try on Arrogance. It's fun.
I need a few more years of this hobby stuff under my belt, and then maybe I'll get there.
No, just picture yourself a straight white male and You have all the
I need the
confidence.
confidence of the 35-year-old white male. I'm amazing.
Drew, what was that model where you're like, oh, I'm good at this?
I think it was my Morven ball. And I ended up kind of leading, a little foreshadowing into one of the other questions we got coming up here. I ended up scoring the 22 best painted or hobby track for the sisters, and I solely credit that with Morven. Like many things, the Gamers Haven, my not sponsor, got completely shafted on the sisters release with Morven Ball. They just got a goose egg, just like many things that they have now. So I built my own. I made a custom one, made sure it was legal and got it all approved and stuff. And then I built the rest of my sister's army. So it was like the capstone for the sisters army. And I had, like just like my dwarves, I've evolved through the most of it. And then I mean, at that point, I still didn't even have a wet palette. So I was doing all my wet blending on the model out of the jar and my wrist. And so I got when I got her squared away, I'm like, dang. And then and it's just one of those things where I had all the practice, I got all the equations right, that I didn't have to look at the cue cards. And then I did because at that point, non-metallic metal was still way out of my league. But there's another one, another technique that's substantially easier. It's called true metallic metal. And I took the equation from Angel Gutierrez.
Geraldus.
That guy.
Dardez, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy's boss mode. Anyways, I used his equation for the true metallic gold on all the stuff on Morven, and it just really popped. And so it's one of those things where you do a bunch of the little stuff right, and then everything comes together, and it's greater than the sum of its parts. So, yeah. So then I solely give her credit as a centerpiece model to kind of like outshine the rest of the mediocrity of my sisters to get me to that spot.
You say all this. I played Drew like a year into learning Warhammer 40K, and it was on his sisters. And I remember looking at this army going, oh, this is how armies can look. Got it.
His mediocre is well, yeah. No, your mediocre is like it's what most of us peasants aspire to be.
It is a beautifully like purple army. Every model has so much detail in it. Again, guys, try on arrogance. It's so fun. Okay, so along the way, as we're taking these next steps into becoming better and good painters, is there a technique that you've picked up that was like the light bulb moment where you're like, oh, I can take on just about anything technique wise? And I'll spoil it. I foreshadowed it earlier. Edge highlighting for me. Once I figured out, oh, edge highlighting, I can do this, like everything made more sense in terms of like how I thin paints to make sure that my brush isn't too wet, to utilize resources to wick stuff off, to stop using a paper towel and just eat the brush, taste the paint. Like all these little things just came with it that then made it so like everything just kind of dominoed from there for me in terms of the understanding of paint technique as a whole. So that was my like light bulb moment. Nat, what about you?
Wet blending. On the Nurgle Nights, I wanted to do wet blending. It's not perfect, but that was something that was a technique I really wanted to try. I really worked at it, and that was it for me. Was layering and wet blending.
What do you think about when it comes to wet blending is like the big hang up for like nailing it down?
It's taking the time to learn how to do it. Learning that you've got to thin out your paints. You've got to remove the moisture without using a paper towel, and just patience. I watched so many videos of just even your brush technique and learning that, hey, it's where you end that's going to deposit the most paint. So you need to make sure that you're starting on your lightest and ending at your darkest. Just there's so many little things you need to know to get it to fall into place to do it right.
Yeah.
Is it me lagging or Nat?
Am I lagging? I'm sorry.
No, I think she was done, and you just didn't realize
It's
that.
me then.
You guys
All
sound on time to me, so.
Cool. Great. Excellent. So, Drew, what about you? What was the technique that was like, oh, the lights came on?
Well, Nat stole my answer. It was going to be wet blending. But the everything she said with wet blending is absolutely right. What I found helped me out was discovering the wet palette to do that, just to not have the same answer. So, like I said, with my sisters, I was doing all their flowy capes and stuff like that on the model. So I would have 3 colors rolling on my wrist at the same time, or the back of my glove, and I would try to get those colors equations, mixes right, and then try and get on there while it was still wet, and then push the paint around, push the color around, get the highlights, the lowlights, and all that other stuff, and then it got a whole lot easier when I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to try and do everything in like the 30 seconds that it started to get the the water edge lines and whatnot. It's like, dang, why do I got to be like this? So
Truly the hardest mode. Always.
So the wet blending, it takes the end product up so much, just by being able to come back and clean up those blends, force the highlights where you want it, and then really kind of dig in and like work out from the lowlights, just to get everything the way you want it. Because there's so much of our stuff is artificial lighting, right? So we're trying to highlight some of the cool things on our models, and we're trying to like, oh, maybe I don't want to paint that part, so we're just gonna paint it all black. So we're just gonna the wet blending really takes it from being just like rattle can it black and then work your way out to base it in a color that's going to work for you, and then you can inject your palette where you want it to do. So you can have the richer shadows as opposed to just black. Maybe you're just going like a hypersaturated blue, or you're coming out with from a on my yellow guys, I'm coming out from a pink or a red and working my way up from that. And so the wet blending really facilitates giving you a classier end product, if you want to call it that.
Very cool. That's a great explanation. Thanks, buddy. And Joey.
Wet blending.
Yeah, right. It is. I will say, just so that we've all talked about it, to comment on wet blending. I think it's super, because Natalie touched on like the direction that your brush needs to go and everything like that. And so at this point, everybody's heard us talk about it. So if you're thinking about wet blending, I think what a lot of people don't realize is, because it feels backwards, is that you're working down the light spectrum instead of up the light spectrum when you're wet blending. So you're working your lighter colors into your darker colors and not the other way around. And so it feels backwards, but that's just it's what makes it work. But anywho, so I will continue, because maybe it's apparent to some people. It's mine was just color theory, just using it and learning it, learning like light dynamics and how undercoats affect the final like luster of the color in the end, and just the way that you can use things to your advantage like that. I think that was one of the things to me that made it like, okay, this actually makes sense. Like I'll paint yellow and I'll paint white, and I don't mind, because there are things like that you can do that makes it significantly easier just by understanding the way that those things work.
Excellent. So many people are scared of painting yellow and white. I actually really like painting those lighter colors. It's black that gives me trouble.
I cheat with white.
That's fair.
I always use gray.
Yeah.
I work my way up with grays.
My Guo looks white. He's not.
He's not.
Technically gray.
Yeah. But that's fine. And I think that's the case most of the time. Like most of the time when people say that they're going to paint white, you're really not, because if you paint white, how are you going to highlight it? what are you highlighting with if you're painting actually white? So, yeah.
Yep. And then so now that we've taken our next step, we feel like we're pretty good at this stuff. Let's talk about our very first paint award. Drew, what was your very first paint award?
I don't know, actually. I know I've won best painted at the monthly Havens a handful of times. But I think my first thing with hardware actually ended up being the ITC for the hobby track on the Sisters. I was doing some reflecting, and I don't know that I got any best painted with them, but I got a whole lot of bridesmaids with them. So a lot of seconds, and those added up to taking the trophy home at the end of the season. So,
Dude, that's
Nice.
awesome.
What a hell of a first award.
Yeah. What about you, Joey? Your first paint award of any kind?
I don't have one.
Neither do I. I've
Don't.
only taken some favorite Army RTT stuff.
What are you gonna do?
That's it.
I'm not aware that I've done that. I guess I was in the top 3 at Jingle Bombs here last year. Had no idea. But like that, I've never legitimately taken one. I've tried. At GTs, I've specifically tried twice. Didn't get it either time for reasons that we'll talk about with the next question. But yeah, I don't have one officially. I have like little personal achievements, but no actual awards.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it's pretty much the same for me. I have taken favorite paint home at RTTs, but that's it. So bring us home, Nat. What was your first paint award?
My first paint award was at the Rook GT in Bozeman, Montana, 2 summers ago. I tied for best painted.
Nice.
That's awesome. What army was it?
It was my pink war dogs, my pink glowy war dogs.
Ooh, excellent.
That glow bit goes a long way.
Yeah. Really does. Fluorescents are amazing. Cool. Okay, so now that we've expressed our first paint awards, Joey, I can't wait to hear about your most humbling moment in regard to paint.
Yeah. So it was the first GT that I went to. I decided I'm actually going to put some effort into this. I'm going to try painting because I don't know what to expect at a GT. I don't know how well I'm going to do. And at this point, I had been playing competitively for less than a year. I'd been playing the game for 4 or 5, but competitively, I had only been playing less than a year. I've only played RTTs. Went with some of the guys down in Mississippi to a GT. It ended up being in Jackson. It was supposed to be in New Orleans. Very weird story for another time. It was in Jackson, Mississippi. So I took Death Guard, and I thought, I'm really going to try for this because I found out in that process, and then have always been this way now. Nurgle's really fun to paint.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of really cool, very different techniques that you can do, and none of it will look the same, and it's really cool. So I went with Frozen Death Guard.
Ooh.
And really put what I thought was some of my potentially the most work that I could have done into it. Showed up at the event, and then found out that somebody who was there, because I didn't know his actual name, I knew his online name, which was Sensei Swag, but his name was Viet Win, who unfortunately he did pass away, I believe 2 years ago at this point. But he, at the time, I believed was like, as I followed the online presence, I thought that he was the best painter in America that was not tied to a studio. And he showed up, and I went, okay, so I actually am not good at this.
As it turns out, not all that great. Oh boy.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. So putting my arrogance pants back on, I've never actually truly had a humbling moment in paint because I have no expectations when it comes to paint. I show up because mine are bright and pretty. I'm like, do you like it? And I guess the only humbling moments are when people are like, well, this could be better. Thanks. But yeah, not again, no expectation, so it's hard for me to get humbled.
That's fair.
Drew, how about you? Do you have a humbling moment in paint?
I have lots of them. And man, it's because I mulled over this question a lot because like I said, I've had lots of them. And while I don't have that kind of like self-image where like I should be first place. I go in and I look at my competition and I'm like, okay, cool. I think I've executed this process better than this person. I've executed this process better than this person. And then when I have, those folks beat me, then I'm like, man, that kind of sucks. I should have been ranked a little bit higher. I have an answer on here, but I don't know. It's when I took fourth in the ITC in January. I took it really hard. I had a pretty safe lead into third. I was going to get nowhere near Dean or Kevin for 1 and 2, but I had a pretty safe margin between me and anybody behind me. I thought, and I didn't. So I slipped from third to fourth, and it was based off the subjective secret rubric of the Games Workshop administrators there at the LBO. I didn't get any feedback from them in Vegas, but when I did get feedback from them in Tacoma last year, where I took second, I got best painted only because Mr. Iowata took his wolves to the top spot for best overall.
Right.
The only feedback I got from them is that the rims on your bases aren't completely smooth. I'm like, really? Okay.
So it's perfect otherwise?
Yeah. That's all you got.
That's a wild detail. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, so that was probably the biggest shot to the pills I took I have taken, was just kind of like allowing myself to kind of think maybe I was safe and I wasn't. So I kind of got short sheeted a little bit. And I think that's good and that's bad. It gives me that drive to push. And my goal for the last ITC season was top 5. And so I got fourth, I met my goal, which I thought was lofty in the first place. So there's that kind of like juxtaposition of my psyche where I'm like, yeah, but I could have done better, but I did pretty good. And so it's one of those, like I said, I wrestled with that for a little bit, and I'm just going to try and keep pushing. So
yeah, from the outside in, that was pretty hard. So, but still, man, fourth overall, that's pretty good.
yeah.
Now, what about you? Humbling moment.
Lone Star Open last year. I had spent 6 months painting up my army, putting a lot of work into it, taking a lot of feedback. I show up and I'm there with Kevin Grubbs, Jacob Thayer, Eric Mullins, winners, and they had very nice things to say. I fangirled hardcore. And they were very complimentary, so I think I probably had a little bit more confidence in how I would do. I wasn't going to win next to them. But I didn't make showcase, and that kind of a little hard. But I took some really good feedback from Jacob Thayer as to what I needed to do to get to the next level. And the explanation was on the rubric of here's what was expected to get to showcase, and here's why you didn't make it. It wasn't that you weren't good enough. There were just people who just were better, and here's what you need to do to get up to their level. So it was a little discouraging, but I walked away with a lot better attitude of, okay, I have work ahead of me. I can get here.
Yeah, it sure is nice when you get a rubric amount of feedback about your army. Isn't it, Games Workshop? Anyway,
Thanks to Drew. Thank you to Drew. I had us rewrite our rubric that we use because of SLO last year. Drew got a perfect score, but he didn't quite understand what that meant. So we rewrote our rubric, tried to remove as much subjectivity as possible, and the judges are if time permits, the judges are required to give feedback. None of this, oh, it looks great, awesome, I love that. I don't care. I want to know what else is needed. I'm putting myself up for paint means I care. I want to do better. I want to compete in this way. Give me that feedback. So
100%.
because of that, we took that from Drew.
As a corporate slave, I can't tell you how the importance of feedback and actually giving qualitative feedback with actual like do this to improve versus you could do better or this is great. No notes. Like,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
You don't
Always
like
a
do
pleasure to have
better.
class.
Yep. Do better or do more. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's go into our next segment, which is where are you today in terms of paint? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm skipping ahead. Let's hit the last one here of the humbling moments, which is that first plateau that you hit in your paint process, getting to where you are today. My very first plateau was when I was painting my army and everything was yellow. And it all looked like doo-doo once I really started thinking about it. And then I was painting up a bunker in the early part of 10th edition when bunkers were actually interesting to play. And I just went way hard on my Zenithal, getting like the darker colors in, and I painted a very rich orange. And that's when I realized what my paint needed to do to go up, which was just required so much more in places. Like take away the light touch, get a little bit more aggressive, and just embrace the things that you wouldn't expect otherwise to really kind of come through. So my first plateau was just like everything's yellow, I'm comfortable, was that first amount of comfort. And then I managed to find the next level just because I was messing around one day with a model I didn't particularly care about. So it was great. What about you, Joey? What was your first plateau?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's very, very similar, and it is pretty much the thing that I said before. It falls in the same. I think it falls in the same line of the advice that I got, which is highlight until you think you went too far. Right? It's be more aggressive than you want to be, and then it probably works. But that was the like really learning Zenithal. I think that was huge, which is part of the highlighting process. So yeah, it's very similar.
My Nurgle dogs, I got to a point where I plateaued and I looked at them. I thought, you are missing something. No idea what it was, but I could just tell it was missing something. So I actually just reached out to my mentor, Jacob Thayer, and now Drew gets it all. What's it? Of how do I take this to the next level? I'm missing something. And that's when he said, do some freehanding. So I learned to stipple.
Yeah. Good old stippling.
I could freehand
so
with
good.
a stipple.
Beat that brush.
Yep. But yeah, these don't look finished.
What about you, Drew? What's that first plateau you hit?
About the same as you. You know, it was with my sisters, everything was purple. With my dwarves, everything was teal. And it's just like going back and just you get the first few models and it's like, okay, this is going to be great. I can totally do this. And then you look down the line, it's like, okay, my sister's army, I need 80 more sisters, 80 more infantry models. And it's just like, oh, mamma jamma. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had Sisters Horde at one point. I had over 100 models, 100 28 millimeter bases, and it's just like, holy cow, that's just such a a steep climb, and it gets overwhelming really fast. Yeah, the same but different with my dwarves. At max, I've got like 60 or 70 individual homies, but still, you get to those first few, and I'm almost at that point with once I get my equation figured out with the elves. It's like, okay, cool. Now I have to do another 40 models. So each army gets slightly more elite, and then so I think when I'm ready for my penultimate army of awesomeness is going to be
Custodes.
Custodians or maybe just a war dog.
Oh.
Let's do just a war dog.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about what we consider our current best painted model that we have in our arsenal. So Nat, let's start with you this time. What do you consider your current best painted model?
My Guo.
Yeah, this is
He
a
is my
handsome
favorite.
boy.
He's my best. I'm still very new at it, but he is my favorite. He is my best.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. I think he looks awesome.
That's fair.
But also, like, I love your Nurgle Chaos
My
Knights.
Nurgle Knights.
They're so
my Stinky
cool.
Dogs.
Yeah,
They're pretty.
Amazing. Joey, your current finest model.
Man, I don't know. Oh, I think, and I'm not. It's strange. So there are parts of it that I don't like, and there are parts of it that are, and which is really the large majority of it, are like, it was not technically difficult. I did it it was a commission, so it's a Mortarion. I did a Mortarion commission to match my co-captain's scheme, and it's this like super like synthwave dry brush thing that like starts at purple and there's greens and oranges and yellows, and it's very all over the place. It looks really cool, especially when everything is all together. It's not difficult technically to like actually put on a model, but for Mortarion specifically, I did his wings as moth wings, and so they're fully free-handed with eyes and mothness, and that was the thing. I think that's the best thing that I've done.
Excellent.
And we can put pictures up. So
yeah, we'll get them in post. My current best painted model is a captain that I recently did, the Gravis captain that runs around with the 2-up, 4-up, 5-up. I wet blended a cloak, or not wet blended, but I blended a cloak, and I'm really proud of it. I think it's very good. And I did a lightning sword that is my best lightning sword yet. And I think he looks great. Is he in any list right now? Some of them, but I should put him on the table more.
Hey, some is not zero, so
yeah, that's true. Drew, what about you? What would you consider your current finest painted model?
I mulled it over quite a bit, and I think I put down my Hekachunk number 2, just because it's unlike you guys, or half of you guys. Modeling is one of my favorite parts of the aspect. So, putting the extra lights in there, building the framework for the inside, having a replaceable battery tray, and then doing all the regular stuff that I do on hard mode with the weathering and the chipping and the 4 layers of teal that I put on before I do anything else, and then coming back and doing all the other edge highlights and whatnot, and then this time that was the first one that I added the dry pigments to kind of like make it really look like it's been on like a Mars like terrain, just getting beaten up by like dust storms and whatnot. That's kind of where I'm at. Plus, it's got the drop down door with the extra sergeant that can stand on it with the magnets and whatnot. So that's my favorite model. I might actually, I think the Ranger that I'm painting might be more like technically advanced than anything else I've done. But the big Hekachunk is probably my favorite.
Yeah, that land fort is a centerpiece if I've ever seen one. My favorite thing you do with it is that you display it on a mirror so that judges know that you painted the bottom of the model in as much detail as the rest of the model.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the weird one. My favorite is the model with the banner. The quilted, just the back, the amount of people I have dragged over to look at the back of that banner. The free-handed quilted pattern on the back. The way I nerd out and have other people nerd out with me over the back of a banner.
Yeah,
Love that model.
it gets unnoticed a lot, but thank you.
It's my favorite.
I also really like your like white dwarf, the old man. I think he's the unhelmeted one. That guy that you painted up, he looks great. I'm a big fan of that guy. Yeah, just we'll get pictures in here. They look amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the highest achievements ever reached. Joey and I don't have any.
Hey, you said achievement, not award.
Okay, achievement. What's your highest paint achievement, Joey?
Jeez. They don't do it anymore, but GW used to put community painted models on the like product page of the model that it was, which was super cool. And I was on like 3 or 4 different places, which was like, that was my big thing. So I was on the Necron monolith. So it would go through and you would look at like all the GW stock photos, and then it would flip to whatever community photos that they had put up. So I was on there for that. And then I got on Forge World for the Conrad.
Nice. So. I guess I made Showcase at Tacoma. That was
cool. See, that's a thing.
That's an achievement.
It's a big
that was
deal.
Exciting. Orange, it just stood out. What about you, Drew? What's your highest achievement, and is it your most humbling moment?
Yes. It's the mere 4th overall for IGC last year.
The mere 4th.
A mere.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. And like I mentioned, it's something I should absolutely be proud of. And it should not be a derogatory comment. It should not be humbling. It should be everything great. But that is as high as I've gotten. I just kind of came up and then just like touched 3rd, and then kind of came back down just a little bit to 4th.
It's all right.
There's always this year.
There's always this year.
There is this year.
Nat, your highest achievement.
My highest achievement, and it was my goal last year, was to take Best in Hobby Track for Chaos Knights.
Nice.
That's my goal.
Awesome.
And I got it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's that damn Guo.
It was the Guo.
It was the
He
Guo.
did all the heavy lifting.
The Guo and
He's
the
my centerpiece.
heavily stippled Nurgle Knight running around.
My free hand on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next to Drew, actually, I have learned tricks from Drew. I have learned tricks on how to freehand. I have learned. But that was my first attempt to freehand, and I just stuck with stippling.
Yeah? They look great. I love your Nurgle Knights, so.
I like them. They're fun.
All right. So, speaking of, where we're at now, what keeps you going? Let's start with Drew this time. What keeps you going, Drew?
Caffeine mostly. But no, yeah, the serious answer is I can see what I'm lacking, and I can see what I'm missing, and I know that I can achieve what I'm missing and what I'm lacking. So my drive is to be able to vault those hurdles and get there. And then it just goes back to everything else we've talked about in the last hour or so about, analysis paralysis, and then, a little bit of, all the other kind of like ingredients that go into it to get me to that point where I can get over that hurdle, and maybe it's not where I want to be. And then maybe I need to, refine some stuff. So, but kind of like
Excellent.
Forecast kind of a thing.
Very cool. What about you, Nat? What keeps you going?
I keep wanting to try and learn new things. The Green Knights, I am forcing myself to learn how to airbrush. I've been terrified of an airbrush. This entire army will be airbrushed.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I love the airbrush. I think it's one of the best tools ever. Joey, what keeps you going?
It's so simple. I like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy painting.
You have to like something.
Yeah, I just like it, and I do it. I don't admittedly, I don't do it nearly as much as I should, and it's very strangely, I don't do it as much as my actual enjoyment suggests that I would. But yeah, I just like painting. So,
Dude, that's awesome. For me, it's a stupid answer. I play Space Marines as my main army, and they keep coming out with more stuff. So
yeah, you just have to.
I have to keep up, or the other 15,000 points of painted Marines are useless. So I have to keep going. That's what keeps me going. All right. So Joey, what's the next technique you want to take on? Like, of all the techniques out there, what is it that you really want to learn how to do well?
There's two, but I'm gonna go with one because technically I know how to do one of them. I just need to practice it and be better at it. So it's brush painted OSL. I can OSL with an airbrush all day long, and I really enjoy doing it. And it's one of those things that, like, it is very easily overdone. People do it all the time. They do too much, or you overspray, or whatever. I understand how it works. It's a lot of fun. I like it. I use it. But I am incapable of doing it with a brush. And I should probably learn how.
Right? I mean, really, when it comes down to it, that's just heavy glazing, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. And maybe I'm just too lazy and haven't really done it, but that's a thing.
I feel like I've done a lot of that. But I also go really aggressive. So
that's fair.
Anyway, Drew, what about you? What's the next technique you want to try to learn?
I want to try to make things easier in my life by actually learning how to use an airbrush right.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
So I basically use it as just like a 1/4 scale rattle can, and so I do my low lights, I do my highlights, I do my zenith, and then I do my base colors, and then that's where it stops. Everything else after that is all wet blending or hard mode nonsense. And if I could get in there and I don't know, maybe do some OSL that uses an airbrush, that'd be great. Instead of like going the hard mode and using wet blending and glazing and all that stuff to do it. And then or like this Wraith Knight that I'm working on, everything I've done in the last probably, I don't know, maybe 3 cumulative hours on just the waist down, probably could have been done in about 3 minutes if I could have any sort of trigger control on my airbrush.
Oh, no.
That's fair.
That's phenomenal. It's so funny. I love hearing your guys's, because like when the techniques that I'm like, or the techniques, like airbrushing techniques for me is the natural thing, where it's just like, oh, what's the best and easiest thing I can do for the best look? And it's all in the airbrush. So
was it you that I was talking to about, like, you don't airbrush at like less than 35 pounds?
Well, yeah, I airbrush anywhere between 30 and 50 most of the time,
which is absolutely insane. So I do just want to caveat that of, you're like, yes, the airbrush is the easiest. It could be easier.
Yeah, I started to do it more with my new airbrush.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I when I was first learning, I was so bad at clogging my brush that I was just like, "No, we're cranking this bitch up," and just kept it at like 30 to 50 forever. And then Joey commented on it, was like, "What are you doing?" So I've been doing more with less, which has been a nice transition.
Yeah.
Now that I know how to paint.
It hurt me a lot. So
Matt, what's your next technique?
Joey and Drew say I want to learn OSL. But I don't have the trigger control to be confident in trying it. One of my friends was suggesting on my Nurgle nights, like, oh, you should do some really cool OSL on the eyes, and I thought, nope, I will not have the right. Nope, I will spray on that face, and I will. Nope, there's 6 months of painting. I am not willing to take that risk.
It's just, guys, just think of it like you're doing a base coat. That's all an OSL is.
No.
And then you
at 50 pounds of pressure, that's all an OSL is.
It's so easy. It's so easy.
I'm more
Oh,
willing
that's
to
so
try
easy.
with a brush than I am with an airbrush because I feel like I have a lot more control. And I spent a lot of time with the owner of Artist Opus learning how to do it with a dry brush.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But the airbrush mimics precisely what light does. Just done.
If you don't have it mixed right, it spits at me, or it's too runny, or there's no. I'm not
Well,
willing
see,
to risk
so
an 8-month paint job.
yeah, well, and you're talking about precision application of OSL on like eyes and small things like that, not like jump packs or plasma guns, and not 50 pounds of pressure and done.
Hey,
so you don't.
Hey, my OSL is nice.
It is,
You know
but what I'm
he's
saying is
done
that
it.
like
He's
is that you don't
confident
have
with his OSL.
it does it looks good, but the thing is that you don't have like at that level you don't have the same problem, like it's not mixed right, or it doesn't spit, or it's spitting at me or whatever, or it was a millimeter too low and so now it looks weird because it's on his cheekbone instead of in his eye socket. That doesn't happen at that level of and that size difference. So like I get it, and that's why like because you've commented I think the first paint job that you commented on of mine is my racks, because that's very much like that. That is a very small, very precision application of airbrush OSL. So
Okay. So let's get into what projects that we haven't started or haven't tried because you're scared or you're not, or you don't think you're good enough for it. So Joey, we'll start with you, buddy.
It's skin.
Okay.
It's and not like necessarily just skin. I can do skin things. It's faces. Large, like an army with a large amount of faces or a large amount of skin. It's one of the 5 or 6 reasons why I don't have Gene Stealer Cult. Because I'm not super confident in it. And if you look at like my Drukhari, 95% of them are helmeted. I very specifically don't use the face or the non-helmet version. I've gone in and like a lot of my witches and my bikes are, even my scourges are converted so that I took the like full visor helmet from the bikes and they're on other models because they didn't have helmets.
Wow.
And I've just done it that way because I don't want to deal with it.
Almost every Marine I paint today doesn't have a helmet anymore. I painted solely helmets for the first year I was painting Marines. And then I was just like, nope, we're going to start making them unique, and started doing faces. Hey, do some of them look a little ridiculous and like bland and dumb? Sure. But like they've also gotten better. Also pupils. Oh man, that's so great.
Yep.
It's so much fun. It is my most stressful moment where I'm just like, it's fun. What about you, Drew? Any project or something that you're scared to start?
We'll circle back to my Eldar, my elves. I have such lofty goals for them. I mean, when they hit the field, I want them to be first at the end of the year for Hobby Track. It's daunting to have that. I don't know that I've ever done that for anything else in my life. I don't know that I've ever said that I want to be number one at anything, let alone in a worldwide competition. And then to, have them kind of be at that kind of like peak performance and then have to learn a new army. I'm used to being hobby first and then getting my butt kicked. Example would be Worlds last year after I won Best Painted and the Golden Ticket in Salt Lake. I was 20 or 30 from the bottom of the competition there. That was another ego check, but I went in there expecting to lose because I'm pretty not good. I say that before every one of my matches. But to have that kind of aspirational level for an army that is, I have almost 4,000 points of of a pile of shame for Eldar. Only thing I'm missing is Fugan and an Avatar. So, and then I could, have 4 or 5 different versions of any of those army lists. So, yeah, I'm very apprehensive. I am got a lot of the non-egotistical arrogance that you are prescribing. Might help me out
on the model.
Yeah.
This is
You know what I'm
when we
saying?
remind you that you took best overall at the Team USA event.
You did.
You took
There was
best
some pretty good
best
paint there.
overall.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
then
keep
you
reminding
talk
you
about
of this.
talk about how you're not very good too, and you went. I mean, most GTs you're 4 wins, 4-1, X and 1
Yeah.
most of the time, X and 2.
I think you only won one. You had one loss. You went 4-1 at the Storm of Silence.
Yeah, pretty sure.
We just
Arrogance,
gotta keep
man.
reminding him.
Just try it on.
Yeah. Get some arrogant pants.
Yeah, just put on the arrogant pants once. Just see how it feels. What about you, Nat?
I'm working on skill, so I'm working on bettering myself as a player. But on the hobby side, I really, really want to dive into kit bashing. I tried it once.
Dude, I love it.
It was an
It's
abomination.
fun.
It was. I still have the model. He's sitting in a box under my bed. At the time, I thought it wasn't too bad, and then I saw what it could look like, and I thought, oh, this looks like a 3-year-old had fun with glue and dad's spare bits. So I will work on that eventually. I will attempt kit bashing.
I love
my
looking
lofty
at
goal.
I love looking at some of my stuff that I've done where I've done like I made assault terminators out of the new Leviathan terminators, and they are not designed to hold shields. At least that kit. And if you like look close, you can literally see gobs of green stuff stuck between a shield and a fist. So yeah, I get it. Okay, so looks like Joey had to take off for a second here. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the lightning round. We've been going for quite a while now. So we're just going to kind of run through the little things. So number 1, I guess I didn't talk about mine. Let me do that. Let me jump into the technique or project that I haven't started because I'm like kind of worried about starting it. And it's Custodes. I want Custodes to be like the project, the army that stands out amongst my armies. I'm so deep in on my Orange Marines that if I change one, I have to change 14,000 other points worth of Marines. I don't want to do that. So I'm really committed to my current orangey yellow color, and I'm very happy with that. But Custodes has been this mounting, like, how the hell am I going to do this? How the hell are they actually going to stand out in the field? And I'm still just trying to figure that out. So that's where I'm at there. Okay.
Cool.
Joey, did I ask you about what your project you haven't started yet?
Projects that I haven't started? Yeah, project I haven't started. And I mean, yeah, kind of. Yeah, because you said that you're scared or don't want to do. And it's just like, if it involves an excessive amount of skin, I tend to shy away from it. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back into it to wrap up the day. Thank you all for hanging out with us so far. I know this has been a really long recording, guys. So number 1, let's talk about the tool, the monkey that's been on everyone's back, at least your guys' backs. Your airbrush that you're currently running. I have an Infinity. I love it. If you can afford it, go buy an Infinity. Like, I guarantee you, it's worth every penny. What about you, Nat? What's your airbrush you're running?
I have the Awatas, but they were gifts, so I'm happy with them. But I do want to get one of the Infinities. They are supposed to be the Rolls Royce of airbrushes.
What Iwata do you have? Is the HPCS or just the normal?
I have 2 of them. I have one for fine detail and one that's not fine detail.
Yeah, that's fine. Like they are workhorses generally. Like Iwatas are very good. So
yeah. Hey, gift card for being at my company for 15 years. Amazon gift card. I'm like, we will buy some Iwatas.
Yeah, nice. I read an Eclipse for like 2 years. That thing was awesome.
I figured I won't feel too bad if I ruin them.
Yeah, that too. What about you, Joey? What's your airbrush?
I also have I have three, but yeah, I have the super shitty like 90s Honda Civic, the Neo 4 Iwata. It's not an Iwata. It's the Neo 4 Iwata.
Oh.
It's effectively, the Dollar General Iwata. You can get them at literally any name brand hobby store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, that kind of thing. They're like $40. I use it only for priming because it's like a 0.6. Nice. It's huge. And it primes great. And when it is unusable in a year, I don't care because it was $40 and I'll buy a new one. Then I have a company that most people haven't heard of, and they don't do a ton anymore, but it's called Grex, Grex. Their green is like, that's the thing that makes them stand out. It's good. It's not my favorite. It is detail. It does detail well, but it's a pistol grip, and I don't like that personally. I bought it from... Yeah, I bought it from my brother-in-law because he wasn't using it anymore, and it was just nicer than what I had when I moved here. So I was like, sure, I'll do that. And it's good. It's just, I'm not a pistol grip fan. And then I have an Infinity for the hyper detail stuff because they're perfect.
Well, so it just, you guys talk about like getting used to hammer pulls. It's like butter. It's amazing. How about you, Drew? What's your airbrush?
Not to be a one-upper, but I too have an Infinity, but I've got the limited edition Ukrainian support one.
Nice.
Yeah. All the proceeds for that went to rebuilding bombed out schools, if I remember right.
That's awesome. So,
is that the...
It's got a cute little like dragonfly wing on it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I wasn't sure because I was like, they've done a couple of limited edition ones. I wasn't sure the little dragonfly one. That's cool.
Heck yeah.
I'll have to keep an eye out for one.
All right. Now the question that everybody would love to know, what brushes do you use? Let's start with Drew.
Well, I've got I think it's the Series 75s that they sell down there at the shop. Mm-hmm. They're like $20-$30 brushes, and they're just great just for everything. I like them a lot. They clean up nice. They last forever. They keep their tip nice. But when I need to do when I need to pay the bills, it's the Artist Opus stuff. I've got a couple brushes that are 2 or 3 years old, and I've just worked the snot out of them. You give them some shampoo and a nice little bath, and they're back to just like razor sharp. And it's just you get every bit of your $70 to $100 per brush out of that. So
yeah.
How about you, Nat?
That's what I was gonna say. Is that like that's. And that says a lot about the level of painter I think that you are, is that like if you're general all around workhorse and not, you're like, so your least brush is an Artist Opus, that's a lot.
Yeah, it does. What about you, Nat? As far as the brushes that you bring use every day or the nicer stuff, what do you primarily have?
I gave in and spent a small fortune on Artist Opus while I was at LVO. I bought the full set of brushes. I bought the full set of dry brushes. I bought the big texture palette. I baby them. Like they still stay in their special little box with their special tips. I still often use my cheap little Amazon brushes because I'm a coward and I don't want to ruin them. But when I do have to sit down, I'm forcing myself to use my Artist Opus brushes.
Hell yeah. Joey?
It's similar to Nat. So I use, most of the time, I use the newer Monument line, their Sable brushes, now that they don't have only synthetic. I do like them.
Okay.
Yeah, I like those a lot. So I've been using those. My cheap workhorse is Army Painter. I will only use them for specific things. I don't use Army Painter brushes for details. But for like base coats and general easy things, like they're perfectly fine. And then I do have, I think, two or three, the Winsor Newton Series 7s that I splurged on like a year ago. And I also baby them. I use them very rarely, but when I use them, they are a delight. So
I have a couple of those too. Those are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like the most industry known brushes right there, those Series 7s from Windsor.
Yeah.
As for me, I really like these Da Vinci Sables. They're like $50. I think they're from Russia. I don't know. Anyway, those are like my workhorse brushes for the most part. But I also have, like, when I'm really getting into a character, I have the big Artist Opus box that I pull out and just like pretend I'm really good at painting with them.
Yeah.
And then like clean them like a madman to make sure that they're not ruined when I'm done with them.
What cleaner are you using?
What's that?
What cleaner do you use?
Oh, I actually have 2 sets of cleaner because I just buy stuff. But the first one that I have is from a brush company called Minotaur. So I have their cleaner, which smells like orange, which is really nice. And then I bought, I believe, the cleaner that that Pro Acryl sells as well.
Unicorn goop?
Unicorn goop.
They're both awesome as far as I'm concerned. It's just the Minotaur one came with a really nice like little pad that you rub the brush around in to get all the gunk off. So all right, let's talk about paint. I'll start us off with paint. Pro Acryl by Monument Hobbies. I love that paint to death. I really like there's certain paints from certain companies I love. There are certain things from Vallejo I love that I have to use. There's certain paints from Citadel that I have to use. But as far as all the detail work that's on every one of my models, it is very specifically Pro Acryl. I have their entire line. I love that paint to death. Drew, I think you're going to have the most unique answer out of all of us because I think most of us use Pro Acryl here. But tell us about Two Thin Coats.
Yes.
Yeah. I got in at ground level on their Kickstarter, and after I bought into it because Duncan Rhodes. I've met Duncan Rhodes a handful of times. He's a great guy. I love his videos. He keeps things kind of like super digestible, which is perfect for me. For those who don't know, I am a gross motor skills kind of guy, and I was a mechanic in the Air Force, and now I drive a fire truck around town. So the easy is great for me because, as we previously discussed, I do everything on hard mode. So having everything in one setup, he comes with color wheels, he comes with all the other stuff, and it's great. And then so as they've expanded to Wave 2 and Wave 3, I just bought in for it. I had just like probably all of you guys, I have had, my favorite white from this company and my favorite black from this company, and then this yellow is the only one that works on anything. And then, but the Two Thin Coats is universally good. I mean, there are some, just like everything, there are some that are require a little bit more work, but as a baseline, they are well and above anything else I've had as far as a single company is concerned.
That's awesome. What a review. Natalie.
I started with Vallejo, and I still really like my Vallejo Air. I did move over to Pro Acryl, the Hobby Monuments. I have all of them. I've loved them. But I'm kind of with Drew. I do now that they have Two Thin Coats in Utah, I have started, when I buy paint, I started buying my Two Thin Coats.
Nice.
So it's kind of a dabble between the two as I stock up on the one and replace the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey?
So mine is Pro Acryl as well, for a significantly more technical reason, but also yes. So for me, I don't think, just because I grew up painting like on canvas and with my dad and watching all of that, is like, I don't think I've painted a model in the past 12 months that I have not mixed paint for. I always mix paint, and Pro Acryl is a single pigment paint, so it mixes easier and better. Not to say like other companies have single pigment paints, but Pro Acryl, it is just as a baseline, all of their stuff is single pigment, and so it is made to be mixed because the guy who started the company and runs it was a tattoo artist first, and so that's why he did it that way. And it's really cool.
That's crazy.
He'll
I've
be
always
at the Challengers Cup.
Super nice guy.
Really nice guy, Jason.
I've always liked Pro Acryl just because it's GUD good. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hey, in Utah, we're a big fan of dropper bottles. I started out with Citadel. It just doesn't last.
Yeah.
Doesn't last. So I moved over to Vallejo because it was the only option we had if it was an army painter.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. You had army painter or you had Vallejo and a few AKs. But that's all we really had. And then Hobby Monument came in and that took us by storm. It's a big favorite here in Utah.
I will say that like Vallejo is some of the cool, like some of their reds and their entire pink to red range is just, in my opinion, the best among paints.
They have, I think, the largest range. Yeah. But I think the Too Thin Coats is starting to catch up. They're really bringing out a lot of range.
Wow. Considering Duncan's a huge part of it, it makes sense. Okay, so Nat, what do you think is a tool that everyone should be using to make them a better painter?
A good dry brush.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Learn how to do a little dry brushing.
Some people go and buy cheap makeup brushes. I've tried, like my very specific dry brush. I have the range of them. They have their job. That's what I like.
Excellent. Great advice. Joey, what about you? What's a tool?
I'll go, should be pretty simple, but it honestly, like embarrassingly, is a thing that I only found like really dove into like maybe a year ago. It's a good light, and Drew's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that which one is that?
I don't even know. I actually only recently got it, and it's changed my world. So.
Oh, did you get it? Did you get it at the Haven?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so it's a Game Envy, which is the same one that I have, and that is the one. Like that is. I've always painted with daylight lamps, so like that was fine. Light quality wasn't an issue necessarily, but like painting with a light that is actually made for painting and has intensity levels and color differences is like, after putting it off for literally years, it is unspeakably useful.
What about you, Drew? What's a tool that everybody should have to make some better painter?
Oh boy. I went a little bit more theoretical on this one. I'm gonna say persistence.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you don't get better if you don't keep trying. If you don't keep, maybe taking the arrogance pants off and having a little humility and saying, you know what, I am not that good. Maybe I need to be better. And there are ways I can do that, and there are people I can talk to about getting better. So Jacob Hobbyhosen is a great guy, great resource. Anybody that wants to talk to the Hobby Goblins, little plug here for them. They have great weekly bat reps, but you can reach out to them on their Discord, and they'll give you feedback for free with no strings attached, and it's honest and credible. So
he's also doing a paint channel now.
Nice.
So
That's
he's
rad.
doing Gob Ross and Friends.
Nice.
And so he'll paint a model, but it's live, so you can interact with them. You can ask questions. I know I've asked a lot of questions about what paints he's using, and because he'll use some really cool paints, and he does some really cool techniques with contrast paints through an airbrush.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll forget to write it down, so he'll ask questions, but he's like Drew said, a really good resource for feedback to go to the next level.
Yeah. I will say that's huge. I love contrast paints through an airbrush.
Only way to use them.
Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff. The tones that come out of them is completely different than what normally comes out of them, and it's awesome.
That's how I found my orange. Speaking of airbrushing, guys, airbrushing makes your life easier. Learn how to airbrush. Make it your best friend. Learn how to do everything
Yeah,
that you
Jeremy,
can with
learn
an
how to
airbrush
airbrush.
because it will save you quite literally hours of your day. And it looks amazing. It is the most effective tool for making even the worst painter a pretty good battle-ready painter. Take it from this right here. And now the last thing that I think we should talk about is what kind of environment that we paint in. For me, it's just at my desk in my office. As long as my paints are nearby, which is just back here somewhere, I'm good. And then I have one of those little like mats with measuring lines on it that I keep from my hand-built table that I put together. But yeah, one big light on top, and that's it. And it's not quite as fancy as what you guys have going on over there, but it works. What about you, Joey? What kind of painting environment do you work out of?
Yeah, it's very similar. My computer desk at home is a corner L, so I have my computer on one side, and then I have all of my painting stuff on the other, and so I just sit there and do that. I have the little like the self healing measurement mat and all that, which is fine. I very rarely actually use that for anything, but it exists, and yeah, I've got my light and everything that I might need and a comfortable computer chair, and you can get after it.
Nice. I'm probably going to wind up with that Game Envy one. That thing is nice. What about you, Drew? Tell us about your hobby corner.
Corner is right. I call it my Harry Potter closet. Where he was sleeping underneath the stairs. Because right over here you can't see it, but at this point that is the staircase. You can basically see all of my hobby area right here. I got my beer fridge, my paints. I got some trophies up there, and then that's it. You're sitting on my airbrush desk, and this is where I paint everything else. So I've got enough room to turn around, and then the other half of it is our pantry.
Nice.
It's awesome. We'll get a picture that Drew sent here so you guys could see it. And then Nat, how about you? What kind of hobby space do you like kind of work in or need?
I can't face the TV because I find that I sit and do this too often. So can't face the TV, but I have an L shape. My office desk is over yonder. It's a big dining room table because I like lots of monitors. Way too many computers. But I use an L-shaped desk. I have one spot is my paintbrushes, my paints, what I'm currently using. 3 different lights. I probably will invest in a better light. A fancy brush cleaner, a vortex mixer. And then on the other side is just acrylic nail polish holders for all my paints.
Yep.
And then I have drawers all over my room of different random hobby stuff, extra bits of basing materials. More paint.
More paint. You can
More
never have
paint.
enough.
No.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do us for today. What we'll do if anyone has any last bit of parting wisdom that they'd like to offer, let it be known. Anyone?
I don't know. As far as the competitive thing is concerned, just remember there's only one winner. Everybody else in the room is losing. So
Right.
just accept that and just have a conversation with those that are better than you. One of the things that I felt was really great at this last storm was the guy that won came up to me afterward for Best Painted and said, "Thank you for doing what you do because I was an inspiration to him," he says. And I was completely, it's like, wow, that's great. I know that I just got goose pimples thinking about it. And just remember, yeah. So just arrogance is great. You need to have belief in yourself that you can do that, but also have the humility to know that, you know what, you're here for the community.
That's awesome. Thanks, Drew. How about you, Nat? Any last parting wisdom?
I think Drew covered it really well. I met Drew at LVO 2 years ago, and I accidentally stumbled into Showcase. I got to be up there with the greats of them all and got to be make really good friends. If it's something you want to get into, there's so much support for people. I know I go to Drew all the time with different things. He's shared so much wisdom. He's shared his recipe for trying to paint faces. Like Joey, I can paint skin, but I can't paint faces. Always ask. There's people are willing to help.
That's awesome. Great advice. Joey, any last parting words?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I think we've covered everything pretty well. And I don't know. I said no, and then I'll say something because that's what I do. So, I need to do it too. I have to take my own advice, right? Just try, just do it.
That's right.
You can do it.
Work.
You absolutely can. Okay, everybody, thanks all for hanging out for as long as you have. We'll edit this down a little bit to make sure that it's more quality content and less gooey stuff. But let's just say, put paint on the model. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you next time at the Op.
See ya.